Throughout the years, there have been countless portrayals of Santa Claus in our media, from various styles of animation to live action. They've all been approached in different ways, each highlighting different sides of the fictional man in the jolly red suit, and are all integral to the idea of the Christmas holiday as a whole. Now, some of my favorite iterations range from Ernest Saves Christmas, to the one from Miracle on 34th Street, to the classic Rankin Bass stop-motion versions, and even the evil robot Santa from Futurama. The best version, in my opinion, is Tim Allen's version from the Santa Claus franchise. When I watched the original Santa Claus film as a kid in the 90s, it was my first introduction to Santa Claus, period. The film came out in 94 when I was only 2 years old, so I grew up with it on VHS in the latter part of the decade and into the early 2000s. I can say that even to this day, when I think about Santa Claus, not just in media, but just the idea of Santa Claus, I think about Tim Allen. That's what comes to my head automatically. So why Tim Allen? His character, Scott Calvin, goes for a majority of the film not believing in the idea of Santa, even though fairly early on in the story, he and his son Charlie go to the North Pole in Santa's sleigh and heavily interact with the elves in the toy shop. But the next day he just brushes it off as if it was a dream, despite everything in front of him telling him that it clearly was real. Now, does that sound like the guy you would think of as the greatest portrayal of Santa Claus ever told? Maybe if you're Oscar the fucking Grouch or Ebenezer Scrooge. Then I started to really think about it, and I think I've deduced why I came to this preference. Tim Allen's Scott Calvin is a businessman, the jaded adult. They keep up outside appearances to appease folks during the holiday season, and it's not completely nor purposely insincere, but somewhere along the way between childhood and adulthood, they lost that sense of wonder and magic. Now, of course, for a lot of adults, this is expected. We grow up, see the world for what it really is, and little by little, year after year, time chips away at our sense of imagination and infinite possibilities, and in its place accumulates wisdom and life experience. Now, in theory, there's nothing wrong with that. You want to grow. You want to learn and evolve. But that doesn't mean that you can't experience a resurgence in that youthful wonder and awe that you once had. And that's something that Scott comes to realize as the film progresses. He shaves and works out incessantly, but the weight and facial hair come back almost immediately. You can accept that you're now navigating the ins and outs of a later age, but that doesn't mean you have to be cold to things that could nourish your soul. But once Scott starts to realize that, it all starts to become clear to him. When children start to acknowledge him as Santa Claus, he initially goes from being irritated in the earlier part of the film and just completely dismissive, to later on becoming attentive and caring. He sees the innocence in our world through the eyes of our children and realizes that it never really disappeared from us adults. It just takes on a different form waiting to be unearthed. And it takes a little while, but he eventually gets his ex-wife and her new husband on board as well. And this continues into the following films, to the point that by the time of the third film, these characters' personalities are the complete opposite of how they began in the first film. Ultimately, the idea here is, as we grow older, it's important that throughout the entire year, and especially during the holidays, that we try to see the best in everyone and everything around us. But while it's imperative to see the world for what it is, it's just as important to see it for what it could be. It doesn't hurt to take a second look at what's before you. Even with 20/20 vision, you may find that ever so often, your eyes may deceive you, and what once seemed written in stone has now given way to a path of several possibilities. So this Christmas, remember to smile at the little things, and appreciate everything you have and everything you could potentially gain in the coming years. Kindness costs you nothing but initiative, so spread some holiday cheer this season and try and take that mindset with you into the upcoming year. I'd like to thank you all for your time. I sincerely appreciate it. And with all of my heart, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Until next time, everyone, be safe, take care of yourselves and each other.